KHON2 News, this is a special report. From the KHON2 News, this is a special report.
We continue to follow breaking news at this hour out of Kailua, where 3 people are confirmed dead after a downed helicopter on Oniava Street. Again, HFD confirming that to us just about an hour and a half ago. The incident happened at about 9:15 this morning. We do not know the identities of the people, but you are looking at images from the scene. Honolulu Police giving a news conference now regarding this incident. Let's listen in. Before we do that, let's go ahead and toss things over to Howard Deshefsky, who joins us now live on scene. Howard, what can you tell us?
Hey, Christine, aloha, good morning to you. Yeah, I'm standing by here right pretty much by the scene. You can see over my shoulder, there's the emergency vehicles. What you stated is what we know is that this helicopter went down at about 9 o'clock, 3 fatalities. What we do not know so far if this was a tourist helicopter. Of course, we know there was a hard landing involving a DLNR helicopter, or a helicopter that was contracted out by DLNR just about 10 days ago at Sacred Valley or Sacred Falls Park. Miraculously, nobody injured, even though that came upside down in the bushes. Here we know 3 fatalities. I want to bring in Jen Boniza. Both of us live here in the Kailua area. It's pouring now, and we can tell you it was pouring heavily, a very low visibility ceiling at about 9 o'clock. And Jen, you got here before me, and what you can tell us is that there's a debris field that by all accounts probably is strewn over at least a quarter of a mile.
Exactly. I spoke to a lot of witnesses who were here, who live in the area. They said they've gotten glass, cell phones, glasses as far away as the Racket Club, and that's at least 1,000 yards away from where the actual helicopter went down here. But witnesses has told me, everyone says they heard a loud boom. They said it was pouring rain at the time. Now, we've also heard reports that there may have been 2 helicopters involved, that one was crashed here and that one may have landed safely elsewhere. However, still waiting on confirmation on that. As far as what everybody saw, they tell me they saw the helicopter coming down sideways before it hit the road. Everybody's very grateful it didn't land in a house. This is a residential area, and it somehow managed to crash on Oniava Street here. There's a lot of dead-end lanes, so a lot of people came running out when they heard the noise. They said it sounded like a sonic boom, just shattering and kind of shook their homes. And then another friend of mine who lives down the block here said that he ran out and he tried to assist EMS in getting the passengers out of the helicopter. Now, amazingly, I was told that there was actually an ambulance about 30 feet away from where the helicopter went down at the time of the crash. I'm not sure why that ambulance was here, but I did speak to Shane Enright, and she had confirmed that that is in fact true. So luckily, they were already very close by and able to try to get to the scene as quickly as possible. But again, residents just really shaken up. We normally don't see something here in quiet Kailua, but again, the weather was like this. It was raining pretty hard, according to those witnesses at the time of the crash.
Well, obviously, you just probably saw all over his shoulder that one of the fire trucks is leaving the scene. We could see one of the hook and ladders, one of the ladder company trucks is getting ready to leave too. You mentioned that there are some people talking about the possibility of 2 helicopters. Often when you see these Circle Island tours involving tourists, they fly in tandem. They fly one following another, whether they do that just to keep an eye on one another for safety reasons. Should one of them get into trouble, there's another one that is there to help. The fact that there is debris strewn over an area of several blocks tells us something catastrophic likely happened up in the sky. Now, the plane coming down in Oniava Street rather than on top of a house, that could be a stroke of luck. That could be an incredibly talented pilot, his last act of heroism, perhaps doing the best he could to guide this bird down in a place where there was nobody there. You mentioned some of the residents. We do have some interviews and some accounts from witnesses. Here's what one of them had to say not too long ago.
This morning I heard a big crash. I looked out my window and I seen the helicopter on its side with no propellers ready to land.
Did you see anything hit it?
No, I didn't. So just a big boom that shook my house. That's why I ran to the window, looked, and it was actually on its sides and it had no propellers. And it was all black. It looked like it exploded or something. So yeah.
How loud was that boom?
It was super loud. It shook my house.
Did you hear screaming, yelling?
No, the rain was so loud this morning that you rarely could hear anything. But once we seen it land, it came up in smokes. So
How bad was the rain at that moment?
it was super bad. It was pouring hard. That's why it was super hard to hear when it actually landed.
Now, what you're looking at right now, our photographer Justin Cano, you can see the HFD personnel circling what we're told is the tail portion of the helicopter that came down, and again, right smack dab in the center of Oneava Street. Jen Bonizo was talking about some of the debris that was recovered, cell phones, that so eerie just to consider the fact that a cell phone has been recovered. Also, you said a GoPro camera.
GoPro. One of the gentlemen that I had spoken to, Steve Lum, who lives on Oneava, when he saw it going down, he said he heard all of this debris hitting his house. So after he went outside, he actually found a GoPro in the yard. He said, you know, he should have left it there for police to come get it, but he brought it over, and I actually captured a picture of that, and I sent it into the station. I'm sure we'll be able to show that later on. But just the question of what did they capture on that GoPro before this helicopter went down, definitely something that we're all going to be wanting to see and curious about.
Yeah, if it was still rolling video at the time, it could be very dramatic indeed. Right now, we want to go over to Manolo Morales, who's also here live standing by in Kailua with Honolulu Police Department officials. Manolo.
Yeah, Howard, here with the Honolulu Police Department's Lieutenant Wayne Wong giving us a statement about what happened. I know, Lieutenant, that still a lot of information and investigation will be ongoing, but what can you tell us about what happened so far?
Well, about 9:12 this morning, we received multiple calls of a downed helicopter. Units arrived on scene and located the wreckage in the area of Oneava and Noella Street. When we arrived on scene, we also located three fatalities on scene from the helicopter wreckage.
And from what we know, these three people were all inside the helicopter.
We believe they belong to the helicopter, yes.
Okay, so no one was hurt or killed, certainly, that was on the road or in the property where it landed?
Yeah, we don't believe so at this time.
Okay. Was there also, you're looking into the possibility that there might have been another helicopter involved?
Yeah, there are reports there was possibly a second helicopter, but we confirmed that the helicopter has returned to the base station. So there's only one helicopter involved.
Okay. But we don't know yet if there was some sort of close call between the two?
That is still an investigation.
Okay. Can you tell us at all what type of helicopter this is? Was this a tour helicopter or otherwise?
That's under investigation, but we can tell you that it appears to be a Robinson-type helicopter, red in color.
Okay. As far as I know, there were a lot of witnesses and certainly tried to help in some way as far as when this all happened this morning.
Yes, I believe some witnesses there that may have witnessed the wreckage. They diverted traffic away from the scene that helped us out.
If you can comment a little bit on just how busy this road is, and considering where it landed, how it's almost amazing that it wasn't worse.
Yes, Oneava is very busy in the morning. People are going to work, people are going to school. And so, yes, it could have been a lot worse, had the potential to be a lot worse.
And I don't know what, if witnesses have told you anything about as far as what they heard beforehand and what they saw before the crash?
You know, we're gathering statements, and that's all going to be part of the investigation.
Okay. Yeah. And with that investigation, how much can you tell us? Obviously, this is could be a long time for people in the area, basically to stay away if they can, as far as throughout a good part of the day then?
Yes, please avoid Oneava Street. You know, we have units from our criminal investigation division on scene, as well as our scientific investigation section on scene, as well as other entities like EMS, fire, medical examiner. So it is going to be a while before we clear the wreckage.
Okay. Lieutenant, anything else that people should know? Obviously, the traffic's going to be bad in this area. And what else would you like people to know out there?
Just to be safe out there, you know. If you see something that happens like this, just please report it as fast as you can, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. All right, and obviously, yeah, we are just outside one of the roadblocks. This is on Oneava and Kaha Street, and so obviously they're surrounding the area to keep the people out as much as possible and to keep the investigation secure. Howard, over to you.
All right, Manolo, thank you very much. We're on the very opposite end of where Manolo is. We're also on Oneava, but we're at Olamana Street, and where Kaha Street is only a few blocks away. So Manolo and I are standing just a couple hundred yards apart from one another. Again, Jen Boniza joining us here this morning. Both of us live in Kailua. Both of us could tell you that it was very wet, raining very hard about the time when this helicopter came by, and the helicopter, apparently, according to witness accounts, hearing the large boom. And I want to just kind of go back, if you're just joining us, and reiterate the fact that there was something that must have happened, because there was a loud boom and again, a debris field far away is the Racket Club, which is probably 1,000 yards away, at least a couple of blocks as the crow flies. Cell phones, GoPro cameras, different pieces of debris pretty much strewn.
Of glass all along the Racket Club, and they've actually closed the Racket Club for today just because there was so much glass and debris. I spoke to one woman from the Racket Club. She had been just arriving and kind of opening things up when this happened. She also heard that loud boom, and then she saw things coming out of the sky and didn't realize what it was until after she saw it on the ground, and very large pieces of glass from this helicopter. So again, I believe that police have gone down there. They have secured the area. They're also looking at several other households that have seen large pieces of debris, excuse me. And I believe there was also part of the helicopter that fell on a couple of cars over there. I sent in some of those photos, and they are huge pieces of debris on those vehicles. Of course, just missing a home right next to the garage door of a house right here on Oneava. But again, luckily, no one else in the neighborhood hurt from all of that debris raining down.
Of course, the Poly Highway, which is closed, though open during the rush hour, I'm not sure what time it closes, 9 or 10 o'clock. So 9 o'clock. So about that time, if the Poly is closed, a lot more people are then heading over to the Likelike or the H3. And even more so, there's going to be more traffic going down Kainalu Street and Oneava Street as people kind of cut their way through this portion of Kailua to get to the other side, to more of the side, the Kalaheo side of Kailua. So it is very lucky indeed that there wasn't more traffic. One thing that we do want to mention is Jen and I were just speaking with an area resident here who says he's been working with all the different helicopter flight organizations, all the tourist helicopters, Makanikai, Paradise, what have you, and saying that they've been trying to work with these helicopter organizations and these companies to have more of a safe zone when they are going around their Circle Island tour, when they are going about the Kailua area, to try to maneuver in a manner that they're not directly over residential areas, because there is. You could be over the water, you could be over the Kauainui Marsh, you could be over different areas that is
that aren't populated, where there are no homes. I mean, the marsh is a huge area of property just beyond this, just beyond Kauainui, the river there, excuse me. And again, you've got the ocean on the other side. We've got huge beaches, large open spaces, and then on the other side of Kailua, you've got Bellows Air Force Base, where they already do their maneuvers and all that kind of, flight stuff. So there are ways to avoid this residential area, to avoid situations like this in the first place.
And this gentleman says he was one of the first to call in the helicopter crash that went down out there at the sandbar in Kaneohe Bay. He said he also recalls in being close to the scene when the Osprey aircraft went down at Bellows. He said, in fact, that was his birthday. We're going to talk to him a little bit after we're finished going live here. But in the meantime, we want to let you hear from another resident here in Kailua what they had to say about this morning's incident.
We're actually loading up for an event we have today right down the road over here on Olamana Street. And then we heard a boom come from that direction by Manono. Then we looked up, saw it spinning. Then as it was spinning, we could hear stuff flying out. Like, debris landing and everything everywhere. So, of course, we come out. My first instinct is to see if I can help wherever I can help. But there already were several people out here. Neighbors were using their fire hoses to extinguish the fully engulfed helicopter at that point. And there's just nothing else that we could do. Oh, it was raining. It was a nice, beautiful, rainy day in Kailua. I wouldn't think anyone would be up in a helicopter at that weather. All of us love to come and help one another. So if all the locals were out here doing what they could do, too. There was one person that we couldn't save. They couldn't save. But they were doing everything they can to put out the fire, help keep other cars from coming in, keeping the road safe for everyone.
So obviously some pretty dramatic eyewitness accounts from Tehani. They're so ironic that yesterday everybody celebrating Kailua, the I Love Kailua Town event, that happening probably, maybe a quarter mile back that way behind the camera.
Right
and
on Oneava.
yeah, right on Oneava Street as it cuts through the heart of Kailua there. And then this today. And it is shocking to see something happen in a residential neighborhood. And again, another hook and ladder just arrived. Of course, removing the debris is something that's going to happen sooner than later, but obviously they're going to thoroughly investigate it.
Exactly. There's going to have to be a very lengthy investigation to find out exactly why it went down. Everyone that I spoke to said they're not sure. I mean, of course, the weather probably had a factor, but was there something wrong with the helicopter? Again, that story hearing that there may possibly have been two. Was there a mid-air collision? A lot of things that are just really unclear at this time, so they're going to have to do that thorough investigation. This only went down just after 9 o'clock. It's been roughly 2 hours. You have multiple fatalities, so this is going to be a lengthy investigation. I can't see them opening this up anytime soon, and then the time to be able to clear that debris. It's going to be a long day for a lot of Kailua residents who live in this area.
Yeah, weather notwithstanding, the fact that several witnesses, more than just a couple, describe hearing a loud boom gives us an indication that some type of incident, perhaps catastrophic, happened in the air before this aircraft came down. So that will be something that will be investigated in the days, weeks, and months to come. We'll continue to stand by out here to see if we can learn anything further. In the meantime, for Jen Beniza, I'm Howard Deshevsky. We're both reporting live here in Kailua along with Manola Morales. For now, we're going to send it back to the station and rejoin our regular programming, but we will continue to follow this helicopter incident again. Helicopter coming down in the heart of Kailua on Oneava Street. 3 people dead. Right now, we send it back to you.
All right, thanks, guys. And as you can see, it has just been pouring out there, and we saw those images earlier just after the helicopter crash, and it was raining at the time. We still don't know what caused the crash. We won't know for a while. Of course, the big question is, did Mother Nature play any kind of role in this crash? Kelly Simek has been tracking the weather. She's been tracking the precipitation numbers in that area around the time of the crash. We want to bring her in now and ask her what she has for us. Kelly, what did you find out?
Well, we were definitely seeing plenty of rainfall coming in through the area. Nothing too heavy, but fairly widespread. And there were some moderate showers coming through. Now, I put a loop here since we don't know the exact time that the crash happened. Again, a lot of those calls they were saying came in at about 9:12. So I put a loop between 8:45 and 9:15. And this is what we were looking at through the area. Widespread showers, as you can see, Oneava Street just right here. The rainfall was moving through and coming down decently. The heaviest of the showers did pop up at about 9:12, and that was just offshore. You can see when you get into the yellows and reds, that's when it's really coming down much harder. And we did see some of that activity just offshore. But as you can see, throughout this about 30-minute time frame, there were fairly consistent showers through the area. Now, I'm going to step out so I can slow this down for you so we can take it minute by minute when this crash actually happened. Now, as we were forecasting and talking about all morning long, there was rainfall and the potential for heavy rainfall in the forecast throughout the morning. All right, I'm going to slowly progress this along through. We're now at 8:55, and as you can see, Oneava Street, portions of it seeing some rainfall. As we progress this a little bit further, just about 9 o'clock, a lot more of the widespread showers coming through. And when we're in some of those darker greens, you can see it is getting a little bit heavier through the Kailua area. And then as we progress this along, maybe around 9:10 when this crash may have happened, as you can see, widespread showers coming down moderately through the area. But the heaviest showers that popped up right there at 9:11 and 9:12, which, as the officer said, when those calls came in, we did see some heavy showers that developed at the moment just offshore right there. Now, not only are we seeing the heavy offshore showers, but again, through the vicinity of where that crash was, right here on Oneava Street, widespread showers completely encompassing not just the street, but all of Kailua. Now, I was forecasting this morning. Again, we did have the threat of heavy rainfall and thunderstorms, and that's all thanks to a surface trough that's sitting over the state. So in terms of winds, we had very light winds, and that included during the time of the crash as well. So if Mother Nature did play a part, more likely the rainfall would have contributed. We are in a light and variable wind pattern, so we're not really seeing the gusty conditions. Now, with that trough over us, take a look. Our winds coming in from the northeast, and they've been blowing about 5 miles an hour throughout the morning. Now, humidity levels are ramped up, but what we also have is, because of this trough, a lot of instability. And when we have the unstable conditions, we have what typically caps off our cloud tops, the inversion. That's lifted when the atmosphere is unstable. unstable. And when you have that raised, that's when you can get the higher cloud tops building. That's when you can get the heavy showers, and that's when you can see the thunderstorms develop. It does not look like we were seeing thunderstorms during the time of this crash, but we were still seeing plenty of rainfall. And as you can see, at least nearby the crash site, we were seeing some heavy rainfall coming through just minutes between when this crash happened. So widespread showers were prevalent, and they're going to continue to be. Again, we've been seeing widespread heavy showers for the last couple of days, and today's forecast was no different than what we saw yesterday. And we did have heavy showers and thunderstorms forecast yesterday as well, and that's exactly what we saw. And we're going to continue to expect to see more heavy showers continue with us. So as you can see, we were seeing showers in the area. Of course, the residents were reporting this. Honestly, it could have been heavier. As you can see, we're not seeing the yellows and the reds through the area as this was coming down. But regardless, we were seeing consistent widespread rainfall through the area. So you know you had the mostly cloudy conditions. I'm going to progress this along through. Again, this is a 30-minute loop between 8:45 and 9 a.m. And as you can see, as we progress this along through, all throughout the Kailua area, there were widespread showers. And right there at 9:04 a.m., that's when they completely take over Oneava Street, which again is where this helicopter came down at. Some of the heavier showers starting to develop offshore just about 9:08. And then that really ramps up at about 9:11, 9:12. And you can see, again, the heaviest showers just offshore, but there's still plenty of widespread showers across Oneava Street and all of Kailua. We have mostly cloudy conditions that were forecast. We've been seeing passing showers throughout the morning. We're going to continue to see them, but as you can see, that was definitely the case at 9:12 a.m. when those officers got the calls. All right, Christine, back over to you.
Kelly, I do have one question for you. We saw on the maps that it was just inundated by rain. Any reports of lightning in the area this morning?
Have not heard of any reports, and judging by the radar, I would say probably not. There may have been a thunderstorm starting to develop from here, but it would have been offshore, and it looks like a little bit after when those calls came in. Typically, when we see the radar flaring up with the reds and the yellows, then you can have a pretty good guess that there was lightning or thunder that was reported in the area. As of right now, I haven't heard of any thunder or lightning that was seen or heard in the area. It's a possibility with the environmental conditions that we have right now, but judging by the radar, potentially not. And again, have not heard reports of that. But I'll definitely check with the National Weather Service, let you know if we did have any actual lightning strikes that were reported. But as of right now, have not heard anything.
So again, a lot of rain at the time of the crash, but nothing extremely out of the ordinary. All right, if you have just joined us now, we are reporting breaking news that we've been following all morning long. About 2 hours ago, reports of a downed helicopter in Kailua, 3 people dead. HPD believes that all 3 people were passengers or the pilot, 3 people inside the helicopter. No injuries reported on the ground, which is very fortunate since it did crash in a very, very busy neighborhood of Kailua Oneava Street. And because it's such a busy area, Kainui and Huilani still closed. Oneava is going to be closed for some time now as the FAA and NTSB investigates this crash. But as you can see, it was a Robinson helicopter, a 4-seater. And again, 3 people on board have died. Their identities have not yet been released. These are images that are coming in. If you have any type of images or video, we do encourage you to share them on our KHON2 Facebook page. We also spoke with HPD, who did confirm that they are also hearing reports that another helicopter may have been involved, but that helicopter returned to base. So we don't know if it was a close call, but they have reports of a second helicopter as well. Again, we do not know how it's related or how it may have been a factor in that one crash, but they do confirm the fatalities. We also know that the debris area is very large in that area. We've heard reports of glass and other types of equipment from the aircraft just strewn all over the neighborhood. So because of that, again, a large part of the road is closed down. It will continue to be for a while. And again, one of the highways is closed as it usually is. So if you are a driver in and out of Windward, Oahu, you might want to take an alternate route and be aware of that. But again, if you are joining us, 3 people confirmed dead. It happened about 2 hours ago on Oneava Street in Kailua. We do know that it was a 4-seater Robinson helicopter. We do not know if it was a tour helicopter or if it belonged to some kind of organization or governmental organization. We are trying to work to find that out. And as you just heard Kelly Simek mention, and she showed on the radar, it was raining heavily at the time. I am getting word that there is a press conference now with more information. Let's go ahead and listen in.
By this horrific crash here today in Kailua. Honolulu EMS, the Kailua unit, was responding on another call right here, about 30 feet away from the crash, when they heard a horrific bang. They turned around and they saw the helicopter on fire. When they got there, neighbors were doing a heroic job trying to put out the fire and also trying to get the patients away from the burning aircraft. EMS assisted, got 2 of the patients from the burning aircraft, but at that time, the 2 were deceased. At this time, we do know that there are a total of 3 fatalities, and the investigation will be going to the NTSB as well as the FAA.
Can you give us any indication about the helicopter itself? I was told it was a smaller helicopter, not the typical larger tourist helicopter. Was it chartered? Was it state?
So many questions that are unanswered at this time, and we're going to leave that to the investigators. I can also add, though, that there was a driver of another vehicle on the road whose car did get hit by a piece of debris. Just shows you the impact of this crash. However, thankfully, she was okay, along with a number of people that were in the area, all uninjured.
What about the genders of the 2 deceased?
Yeah, at this time, the genders are not available to us. That will go with the investigation. The ME is here on scene now, and they will take care of identification.
And all 3 were inside the chopper?
That is the belief, yes. All 3 were inside the chopper.
Can you give us a little bit more information about a debris field that we understand stretches all the way from the Racket Club, which is probably 1,000 yards or more from here, to where the actual helicopter came down, and some of the items that may have been found? We've heard some different witness accounts of what may have been collected on the ground.
Yeah, all part of the investigation, but I can tell you, as you know already, that parts of the helicopter were found where we are, and as you mentioned, all the way down to on your way to Kalaheo High School. So it is a huge area. Thank you to the public. They've been great at allowing the investigators to come in and do their job. It's going to probably take hours, if not longer. I can't say, but there's a lot going on here, and so thank you to everyone for their patience.
We also heard the possibility that there may have been a second helicopter. Often tour flights do fly in tandem. Any word on if there was a second bird in the sky at the time?
Sure. No, not at this time. I can't confirm any of that, Howard, but I'm going to pass it on to my counterpart here, Captain Segaran, as HFD came in after EMS.
Yep, Captain Segaran, Honolulu Fire Department.
Okay, Captain, from your perspective, is there anything, first of all, that you could add to what Shane just talked about?
Not really. Basically, all what she said. When we arrived, we got the call at 9:13. Our first unit arrived at 9:18 and did find a small fire that was involved with the crash, the helicopter. So our folks went ahead and took over from the great neighbors that were trying to do their very best and put the fire out. The fire was under control at 9:23, and it was fully extinguished at 9:40.
Did you folks use foam or something else in order to fight the fire?
Yes, that's correct.
Any indication whether this pilot maybe heroically was able to maneuver this bird down onto the asphalt, or did it come down hard and fast? Any indication? Did anybody actually be able to witness the way this helicopter did come down?
I have no information on that at this time.
What about telephone lines that may have been taken down by the aircraft?
That's possible. I'm sure there's going to be some folks that may come home from work and find some damage. So again, this is going to take a long time. We may have information coming forth in the future, and right now it's just not available.
You didn't have any units in the area responding to another call, or were they at that same medical emergency that EMS was at?
No, I believe they were at a separate, they got dispatched from the station or from another area, but not at the same scene as EMS.
Do we know at this point where it may have been landing or what the flight plan was at this point?
No, we have no information on that. Again, that investigation will take place, and that information should be made from FAA or the others NTSB investigating.
Shane, I just want to clarify with you. HPD says they believe at least one of the pedestrians died on the roadway, not in the helicopter after the crash. That came from HPD.
Okay, Thank you for bringing that up. We are going to wait to confirm all the details. What we were told when we were first on scene, that the 3 were inside. 3 were inside, but again, it's going to take a lot of time. As you can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts here right now.
Any indication? I know you said when they helped assist with the 2 passengers that they were deceased. Do you know if they were still possibly alive after the plane, or excuse me, after the helicopter came down?
There's no way to really tell that, but we were very close when it happened, and our paramedics turned around without second hesitation, and they were in there trying to get them out, along with, can't say enough about those neighbors trying to get them out of that helicopter. So if there was a chance, I want to say that they would have got them.
Did they hear anything prior to the crash? Any kind of funny noises coming from the aircraft at all? Or?
They had their lights and sirens going on, so you can just imagine they're in the rig going lights and sirens, and it was that loud that they did hear it. It's like right behind them.
And is there any more information you can give us on the woman who was in a car who was hit? Was she parked? Was she driving at the time?
I'm told she was driving and that she's okay, and we're grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for your patience.
Shane, thanks.
And there you've heard it, live news conference from HFD as well as EMS, that they have confirmed that from what they do know, 3 people who died were inside the helicopter. EMS and neighbors were working together to try to get those victims out of the helicopter. Now, I just talked to Kelly as well. She is mentioning that there was heavy rain at the time. Nothing extremely out of the ordinary, but she did check in with the National Weather Service to ask if there's any kind of lightning in the area, and they said that they did not receive any reports of any lightning, so we don't know if weather played a part. We don't know what played a part. All we know is that witnesses say there was some kind of loud boom before the helicopter came down. Also, what we don't know is if the second helicopter that people are reporting had something to do with the crash. HPD investigating that one as well. They say that they have reports that there was a second helicopter in the area. We don't know its involvement, but we do know that that second helicopter returned to its base station. HPD saying they do not know if it was a situation of a close call. But again, what we do know is that 3 people confirmed dead. FAA and NTSB investigating this, and they will for a while. And because of that, part of Oneava is closed right now. That's between Kainui and Hualani. So people returning home, we're going to find a large section of a very busy street closed. And the debris field is large, as Howard and Jen were mentioning. A lot of glass and other equipment just strewn all over the road in people's homes. So again, a lot of people come home from school and work, and they may find pieces in their yard or in their homes. And if they are listening, don't touch them. Do not move them. It's part of the investigation. Call it in and call authorities. So again, if you are joining us, we do want to confirm 3 people dead after a helicopter crash in Kailua. A 4-seat Robinson R-44 helicopter down in Kailua. It happened at about 9:15 in the morning. We still don't know who owns that helicopter, if it was a tour helicopter or another type of governmental helicopter, but we are working very hard to try to find those details out for you. This is new video now that is coming into our newsroom of the scene. You can see EMS, HPD, HFD still on scene, and they will be for a while. Picking up equipment, picking up debris. Again, the debris field is very large, and if you are familiar with Kailua and Oneava, you know that it is a busy street right in the heart of that neighborhood, and it stretches very long and it's heavily used. So closing a big portion of this is going to affect drivers later on today. And it is just very fortunate that no one on the ground that we know of so far was injured because of this helicopter crash. And that is the latest here from the KHON2 studios. Again, 3 people dead after a downed helicopter on Oneava Street in Kailua. Now, we are going to continue to update you on KHON2.com, and also sign up for our push alerts, and there you'll get up-to-the-moment updates as well. Stay tuned for our next newscast for the very latest as well. That's KHON2 News at 4. And for now, we want to send things back to our regular programming.